What is up, guys? I finally am able to stream. If I were to start getting into detail about what my week is going to be like, I'll be here until like 6 a.m., and that's exactly the time that my shift starts. So I am just going to go over my most urgent thought, and that was something that I observed today while I was out and about living my life in retail hail like I always do. And I couldn't help but notice that I do not know a whole lot about aging, as you can imagine, because it's not something that I am personally concerned with at this stage in my life because it's relatively soon for me. But I have observed it in other people. Like, I don't want to say that my mom is like old, but she is definitely wiser than me, older than me, severely more experienced than me in life, and I have been noticing some behavioral changes that I anticipated given that I read and I ask other people questions. Hey, Garuda. And additionally, at work, there is a lot of older folks who I encounter because this is primarily a retirement city from what I have observed. Like everyone who's young is always talking about how they want to leave, and they're always like, where all the young people at? And if you want to find young people, you have to go to college. Well, what I'm taking forever to bring up and inquire about, which is really the topic of the stream, is I am a little confused when it comes to how older folks learn. And I don't want to be mean, I don't want to be rude, I don't want to pick on anybody, but I just want to become better at perhaps teaching people on how to transition into learning new ways of life, especially involving the implementation of technology. So, to be specific, the way that I observe this is sometimes I have old folks come through my line, and everywhere that you go, you have the option of downloading coupons, it seems, or you can go online wherever it is that you're shopping, whatever grocery store it is that you're shopping. They have some kind of a program in which you can get your rewards on your phone, or you can link your phone number somehow so you can get rewards. That's the classic way of doing things. But little by little, that is being, I don't want to say it's being phased out, but it's being evolved so that you have access to more benefits, more perks for being a rewards member. For some reason, there's people who do not have patience at all when it comes to this, and it's usually older people. They're always talking about, oh, I remember how this used to be so much easier. Oh, now everything is on the computer, now everything is on the phone. You do this to old people all the time. You know that we're not good at this. I am not very technologically savvy, this and that. And I'm like, I would like to understand what makes it difficult for someone to learn after a certain age in life. Because I have heard this all the time and I have experienced some of this myself, especially with trying to learn another language. If I try to postpone it, it seems like nothing ever makes sense to me. I'm just not as good at learning as I used to be. And I would like to understand why. Is it because I am literally deteriorating on the mental department? Is it because I'm not patient with it because I'm an adult and I have stress and I need to be productive, as in making money every single waking hour of my day? And I just do not want to deal with anything that resembles working because I'm just tired, I'm fatigued, and all of those things combined coming together makes me apathetic about learning. So when it comes to older people, the fact that you have been away from what I imagine would be an official school setting for you to be educating yourself, for you to be practicing, like honing your skills, I would imagine that for you, you would get particularly rusty when it comes to obtaining new knowledge, especially with computers. But it's kind of strange for me because where you might see me, I'm not exactly a tech whiz myself, but normally I can get by and figure things out if I have a good set of instructions written for me. Well, I find it that even if you hand people stuff to read, and even if you direct them to resources that they can read to become better at something, they don't do it. Is it because you're intimidated by it? Is it because you try but you genuinely don't get it? Is it because you don't even want to try to get it because the idea of spending time doing something that's going to build you up is intimidating you? Like, what is happening? That is the link that I am trying to find so that I can become better at coaching older people and being more patient with older people. It's not that I'm mean. It's not that, like when I'm at work, I don't care. Please take your time. I get paid by the hour. But when it comes to what's going on through people's minds that make them frustrated about learning a new way of doing something, especially something that benefits them, everyone likes to save money. So why is it such a burden for you to take a minute or two or 10 to figure out something that a company is implementing for you to get benefits? So it must not be that important for you to be saving that extra dollar. But for some people, it is because they get upset. They're like, oh, why do I have to do that over my phone? I don't know how to use my phone. I'm going to miss out on the deal. Can you still give me the deal? Like, no, you need to be able to access this stuff on your phone. That's the whole reason why it's there. Like when you go to fast food restaurants, you're not going to say, "Oh, I have a buy one get one" without showing your phone because they're not going to believe you. So, yeah, you guys, I just wanted to bring that up to you, especially if you're a senior citizen yourself, if you're an individual of wisdom. How is it that you progress in life and you transition and you learn things? And how is it that your ability to retain some things, manifest yourself, practice stuff changes for you and affects you? Because I'm so lost, I'm scared, I'm confused. I don't want to offend anybody, but at the same time, it's kind of awkward for me to bring this up because, like, normally people end up walking out feeling like I made their day. They had a great experience with me. They're always thanking me, "Oh, you're so patient and kind. Thanks for taking the time to teach me." But now I am trying to understand why you have difficulties independently getting around to doing this stuff. Like, I'm not picking on you. I will never pick on anyone who is legitimately struggling with something. Like, I've needed help. I need a lot of math help, for example. Even the simplest problems, I don't get it. But I just want to understand what it's like to have the mind of an old person so that when I get old myself, I can identify this shit ahead of time and do myself a lot of favors and maybe learn to be patient with myself as life becomes ever changing and I am too slow to keep up with it. Like, so that's why I bring this up here because I genuinely do not know how to start this conversation. But maybe if I throw it in here, you guys will give me a better direction to where I'll be able to recur to these people who I have in mind. And I'm like, you know what? I learned this. I want to be better. I'm sorry if I was impatient in the past, especially with my mom. Like sometimes my mom tries me. I'm like, lady, how do you not get this? Come on, stay with me. But yeah, basically, I just want to bring this up to pretty much have the conversation and see what you guys have to say, see what your experiences are. JP says hello, happy Good Friday. Hi Zamri, long time no see. True, good to see you. Let's see. Viking, hello Viking, says have coached older people in tech and have found that for the most part, if they want to know, they are keen to learn, but if not, the willingness is not there. Yeah, exactly. It's like that is actually my question. How do I know that it is the person legitimately not being interested, like the apathy aspect of it? Or how do I know to identify when there is just a piece of the puzzle that's missing to where they just don't get it. Because I find that just like you said, when I was in school, math was my worst subject, but I went to tutoring, I stuck to it, I practiced, I tried, I did my best always. I really wanted to get it. So my drive was there. With that said, does that mean that as I get older, my drive to want to learn things is going to decline no matter what? But at the same time, I don't think that's entirely true because there's people who, even in their 60s and stuff, they still find the will within them to fucking try skydiving for the first time. So I cannot believe that it's all about blaming the fact that you're getting old. I think that your attitude is what's getting in the way of things. You're just choosing to be impatient. But again, I'm not old. I don't have any diseases that are crippling me severely, at least for right now. I do not have kids. I do not have grandkids. I do not have a house I'm trying to close a sale on or whatever the hell stresses old people out. And I understand that your senses are not the same, your appetite is not the same, your concentration is not the same, your sleep pattern is not the same. Like you are changing when you reach that stage in life, and I would imagine that that overwhelms you, especially when you feel like you're a burden, when you're a little behind, and people tease you about how you still, let's pretend, how you still have a flip phone. Like, I know people who still have flip phones, and they tend to be old people because they're trying to avoid the technology. But with all that said, it's like, do you just have a nostalgia for when times were simpler for you when you were at the top? Are you intimidated by where the world is going, by progression, or just what is happening? Like I have so many questions, but sometimes I don't even know how to ask them. I don't even know if it's a legitimate concern because again, I'm not old. I don't have kids. I don't have anything particularly stressing me out. I don't have a lot of experience in life yet, and I'm definitely not someone who's out there and involved. But like I said, it's like I want to ask all these questions and I can ask them here, but in person, it's a little different because it's not like I'm going to push anybody's offense button. I don't think it'll get to that level. But it's like, how can I bring this up without making it seem like I'm trying to pick on the person or attacking the person? But then again, I'm responsible for how I say things and what I say, but not what you think about it. And like I said, I just genuinely want to learn. But anyways, but I'm glad that you mentioned that, Viking. For me, it has always been the way you learn instead of what you learn. My generation had to memorize many things, so perhaps the speed and scope of learning new things is out of their experience. That is so true because I find it that a lot of older people have a tendency of learning better if they do things themselves. Like, I have heard people make comments about, oh, when I learned how to run a register, first of all, I did not have all these fancy buttons and screens that you have. I had this big machine that used to like ring. That's why you say ring someone up. And I had to count everything by hand, whereas now you have scales and computers and weights and everything is a breeze and your labor is being replaced by like robots and stuff. So I can imagine how they are intimidated by how stuff like that changes. But also, it's crazy that learning styles are a thing that are not being discussed anymore. Because I find that when I train someone new, my first question is, what's your learning style? Do you learn better by observing, listening, or doing stuff yourself? And usually people tell me that they learn better by watching someone or doing it themselves. Very seldom do I have someone who says, oh, you can just tell me how it's done and what to do, and I get it. Like, I used to be an auditory learner in middle school, definitely. You can say something and I'll remember it forever. But then I started sort of going on the decline, and I had to be more of a visual learner, but toward the end of high school to presently, I learn better by doing things. I have to write it, I have to feel it, I have to touch it, I have to taste it, I have to eat it, I have to do whatever it takes for me to remember it, you know? But yeah, it's I feel like we're not exploring that anymore. People's learning styles, we don't even acknowledge that that's a thing, and maybe that's part of the problem and part of why older folks may be intimidated. Because usually, say in a place like the checkout process, if you tell an older person, "Oh yeah, all you gotta do is get on your computer and visit our website and sign in, sign up, and you click in here and it'll show this and that." For an older person to visualize that, I would imagine that it's intimidating, especially if you're not someone who is online a lot. So, whereas if you do what I typically do, which is, do you have your phone on you? Can you visit this website? Can you remember your password? Can you retrieve your email? Can you remember your phone number? And this and that. It's like, oh, that's actually pretty simple. And I'm like, yeah, it's not difficult at all, but I don't want to assume that what's not difficult for me is not going to be difficult for you because hello, I work here, I live here, I breathe here. So I know that I breathe all this technology. I know what I'm doing. I don't expect you to have the same level of expertise as myself, but there are times in which I learn more from the customer than I learn from my own freaking company. So see what I mean? It's crazy. I think that it's a matter of identifying how people learn, and with older folks, I guess just take the time and really show them as if they had building blocks, because I think that all they need is patience, because I find that when they are amongst a group of people, especially if they have younger folks, it's like everyone is walking faster than them, everyone is speaking faster than them, everyone is eating faster than them. So I would imagine that they feel alienated and they don't want to feel like a burden. And I would imagine that for them, that can get depressive. It's like, I'm old. I am treated like I'm old. I'm getting picked on because I still have a flip phone. I'm getting picked on because I still drive an older car, or things like that. I would imagine that that will fuck you up psychologically to some extent, because no one wants to be treated like they are dinosaurs and obsolete. See what I mean? Because, like, if it were me, I know I would feel bad at some point, and you guys know that I barely have feelings, but to be treated in that manner, yeah, it would mess me up, because it's like, oh, you don't enjoy my presence because I'm slow for you. Like, is that what it is? I cannot run like I used to. I cannot bend like I used to. I cannot, like, lift like I used to. So I would imagine that that just, like, emotionally, it's not just your physical deterioration, but also your mental capacity being affected. I would imagine that that will affect you, especially if you're not getting a lot of patience, love, and support. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's just psychological more than anything. Let's see. One of the coaching things that needs to be addressed from the coaches, that it can be difficult to step back and explain concepts for the layman. Old people are like giant, wrinkly toddlers. They are cute. Ah. Identifying that is, watch their eyes. If they glaze over when you start explaining, they're not with you, and either a new tack needs to be taken or it's not going to happen. That's a good point. I never thought about that. I guess for me, I tend to rely very heavily on the fact that when anyone is telling me something, I'm just super attentive no matter what it is. So it may be difficult for me to pick that up from other people's behaviors, because I know what works for me. So that's immediately the technique that I recur to when I try to coach someone on how to go about something. But just because my technique makes sense to me doesn't mean that it'll make sense to them. And that's when I need to get creative and be like, oh yeah, I wanted to be a teacher. So if I had this child that's challenging me on how to present the concept to them in a more simplistic way that they can grasp, what would I do? How would I go about it? And I guess with older folks, I just have to maybe also put aside the fact that they're my elders, because that tends to intimidate me a bit. Like, I don't want to, although in the moment I'm the person who's teaching them something that will benefit them, I feel kind of weird trying to tell my senior what to do or how to do it or how to go about something when it's usually them who are teaching me and coaching me on how to go about life. See what I mean? So I need to maybe let go of the fact that I'm not meant to be constantly learning from old people, that old people can learn from me. But it is so rare that I find myself in a position where that is the empowerment that I have. It's usually old people are the ones passing down the knowledge. And I have been in situations where I was not taken seriously by older people because I'm young, I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know what I'm talking about. I could not possibly aid them in any way. But I'm like, no, that's not true because I'm my own little separate mind and I will have developed some stuff that you have not even considered yet. So why are you not taking me seriously? See what I mean? But anyways, it has very seldom happened, but I would imagine that there are some cultures out there that really is all about honoring the folks who precede you. So I would imagine that it's difficult to intervene in someone's education when they're older than you because it's kind of crazy that you are the offspring, but somehow you are coaching them, making them wiser, teaching them stuff. How do you cope with that? Like, nobody wants to be taught by a kid, you know? But at the same time, as someone who is all about learning, I don't care what the source of the wisdom is. I care about learning, period. So, yeah, I don't know. It's messier the more I think about it, and that's why I just wanted to bring the topic up and let it go because it was probably going to interfere with my sleep. I have so many questions. Anyways, you guys, tonight I cannot really hang out for too long because I have one of my crazy shifts tomorrow. But thanks so much for hearing me out and for your comments and just suggestions, concerns, or whatever. And I'll definitely let this marinate in my brain. But yeah, I have so many questions. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will try to be back tomorrow, but no promises. Looking at it from the other side is not something comfortable to be taught by someone much younger than oneself. Yeah, like it, it's not like it's impossible to be taught by someone younger than you. It's just that it's supposed to be very unlikely. And for me, if I were being taught by a child, it's like, yeah, I remember when I was a kid and I had so many brilliant ideas, and the older people respected me for it as long as I'm not being a buffoon about it. But there comes a point in which, with the way things are going, I definitely would hang out with young people if I'm trying to learn about technology. Because somehow young people are just good with computers because we're on them all the time. But that doesn't inherently make you good with them because I know some young people who definitely only use like 5% of their phone, and I'm like, your phone is better than mine and I do better stuff with my phone than you do. But anyways, so I don't know. I guess it's something that we should explore from all perspectives, like the perspective of you being a parent, being a grandparent, being a teacher, being a professor, being a coach, being a manager. I mean, imagine, I always try to imagine me as a manager managing people who are older than me. I'm not used to that. I'm just used to being under the authority of people who are older. Now, just because I have managers who are young like me doesn't mean that I respect them less, or that I treat everyone with the same level of respect. But you definitely sense the difference in the energy, the difference in the focus, and the ability to multitask and all those crazy things, communication skills. So that makes a difference. But me individually, it's not like, oh, I'm going to respect you less because you're young like me, so I'm going to be tripping you. No, nothing like that. But there is a difference for sure. And there is supposed to be a difference because some people have more experience, some people have less experience. But I always felt like if I'm not careful, when you're not that much older than certain people, or when other people are significantly older than you, I would imagine that they don't take you as seriously, because they're like, oh, just because you're in that position of power doesn't mean that you have the same level of experience as me. I have managed in the past, just not in this company, and I'm like, well, in this company I am your boss and you will do what I say, or else you're gonna have to hit the trail and find somewhere else to get your bread from, because it's crazy. I just don't want to deal with that attitude. So I always wondered, if I had been in a manager position, if that were to happen, how would I cope with it? I don't think there's any coping to do, really. Just either you do what I ask you to do, or you're getting dismissed. Something has to happen to you, because I'm telling you what to do for a reason, because this place is my responsibility, and you are just getting in the way of the progress of the facility, and that cannot be tolerated, just because you have a little bit of pride over my age and some bullshit. See what I mean? I just don't have the time for that. But anyways, you guys, I'll leave it there. Come back to this at another time when I think about it a little better. And yeah, thanks so